Namaskar, welcome to Late Edition. Well, Prime Minister Manmohan Singh flew into Afghanistan today for a two-day visit and assured the Afghan leadership that India will stand by the war-torn nation through thick and thin.
I reiterated to President Karzai India's firm and unwavering commitment to assisting the government and people of Afghanistan in areas which are of priority and concern to the government and people of Afghanistan.
Well, his visit focuses on terrorism, Indian aid to the war-ravaged country, and also the fallout, the killing of the Al-Qaeda chief Osama bin Laden. And Dr. Singh is the first foreign head of government for whom the late King Zahir Shah's home has been thrown open. The National Security Advisor, Shiv Shankar Menon, Foreign Secretary Nirupama Rao, and the Prime Minister's Special Envoy to Afghanistan, Satinder Lamba, the senior officials who accompanied the Prime Minister. And ahead of his visit, the Prime Minister emphasized that his discussions with President Karzai will cover regional developments, the fight against terrorism as well. And the visit will also deliver tangible results with India to discuss ways to advance its developmental partnership with Afghanistan to a new level in the coming years. And to discuss the importance of this visit, we are joined in the studio by Dr. Sreeram Chaulia, is Professor and Vice Dean at the Jindal School of International Affairs. Thanks very much for being with us. Dr. Chaulia, after, the US plans to withdraw its troops, NATO's withdrawal, what happens to Afghanistan?
The nightmare scenario is of a vacuum, where it will return to the, serious civil war-like situation of the early 90s, where the world has turned its attention elsewhere. America is domestically preoccupied, and then it's the same old situation where the Pakistani intelligence services are playing one side against the other. So the prevention of a vacuum-like situation should be the #1 concern of all parties, all the stakeholders. And I'm sure the Americans have been thinking about not repeating the mistakes of the past. Ahmad Rashid, for example, has been strictly canvassing for the last 10 years not to repeat the mistakes of the 90s. So it will be a gradual drawdown, and the attempt will be to find alternative ways of security support systems in place, both domestic and regional, in order to avoid the kind of implosion that we had in the 90s.
Dr. Chaulia, but after the death of Osama bin Laden, what do you think the strength of the Taliban is if they are linked to Al-Qaeda?
Well, the opium production and narcotics trafficking has been the main source of their, bottom line, the finance. Al-Qaeda used to finance some of their activities, and I think Al-Qaeda continues to exist. So I don't foresee that they have received any body blow per se. Rather, the spring fighting has started, and the audacious attacks they are carrying out in Kandahar and in major urban centers over the last few weeks clearly signify that.
What about the support from Pakistan? I mean, at least
that remains true. That remains
unofficial support.
Absolutely. I think that, in fact, I think cutting off that tap would probably make a huge difference in denting their ability to threaten and to continue their insurgency. But as you know, that's been the case for nearly 10 years now, and it hasn't happened. Neither the Americans nor anybody has succeeded in doing that. So we'll have to think about, alternative ways of in which they could be at least softened up, so that the negotiation or the reconciliation is not done on their terms and on the terms of the ISI.
Okay. You also come from in the education background. In terms of building capacity, how much? What are we actually looking at?
Well, we have to place it within a strategic framework where, in March, Karzai and a high-level team went to China, and they got pretty much most of the infrastructural and economic aid promises that we are currently delivering. And given China's capacity, I'm sure that they can deliver it tenfold, right? They've done it in Africa and in Latin America. We are nowhere close to China in our ability to use checkbook diplomacy, given that we have smaller reserves and a smaller.
But given the fact that a number of Afghanis prefer to study and come and study in India, Hamid Karzai himself is a student of an Indian university.
That is true. That is true. I think our strength lies, our soft power and our ability to influence them culturally is stronger compared to China. For instance, I know that the moment the Taliban were brought down, Bollywood videos were openly and freely being distributed for the first time on the streets of Kabul. So the historical linkages, the former unity of the undivided subcontinent, all those things I think do play a factor in the way the language has been framed as a second home, for instance, for the Prime Minister. All of this comes from that bonhomie. But I think we should beware of the strategy of simply delivering more aid and doing more infrastructure only. Of course, that's necessary for reconstruction, for rebuilding, and it is tangible and it's concrete.
So what are you suggesting?
I think we'll have to engage with the Pashtun community more, because there has been a perception over time, fueled by the Pakistanis, that we are pro-Northern Alliance, the former Northern Alliance, and that we are basically anti-Taliban. Taliban often perceive themselves as being the spokesperson of the Pashtun community as a whole. And in that sense, there is an ethnic and sectarian angle to this whole conflict.
Right.
And I think we'll have to reach out more. We'll have to even engage. I've written in the past that we'll have to engage with some elements of Taliban. I'm sure our mission is doing that. But I think we'll have to go deeper. And Greg Mortensen has done amazing work, this American man who started all these schools for girls across, and he's written this book about 3 cups of tea. It's a very interesting book because the Pentagon has been subscribing to that model of reconstruction. Of course, we are not there with boots on the ground, but what we should also think about is how we can make symbolic inroads into interior regions of especially of the south, Helmand and Kandahar, which are the hotbeds of Taliban.
How important is South Asia, the region, as far as Asia is concerned?
Well, I think growth in India primarily has raised the salience of South Asia as a whole. Because South Asia was seen as a laggard compared to East Asia and later even Southeast Asia, because the tiger economy, the tiger cubs came. So I think Afghanistan will remain a kind of like a sore spot as one of the poorest in the world, not to mention South Asia, and the fact that Pakistan itself has slid considerably or down the ladder over the last few years and is very, very aid dependent. So India is the engine of growth in the entire region. But it's just that the benefits of that growth are not percolating enough around the region because of political problems. So I think if there is a way these countries come around to seeing how they could benefit from the positive externalities that India is generating, that is the way South Asia will rise up in the scales.
We'll have to leave it there. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us here on Late Edition. Well, the Prime Minister described Afghanistan as a very special friend and not just a neighbor. And he said that the war-torn country can count on India to build its society, economy and polity. And according to Wikipedia, a survey showed that Afghans rated India as the most friendly country in the world. So it's that momentum that the Prime Minister wants to take forward. Thanks very much for watching. Namaskar.